Ancient tales of love and grace, where lost are found and hearts embrace. In stories of old, a shepherd's care, a coin that's found, a welcome rare. These parables show a love slow. This is the parables of Jesus. Picture parables, the lost.
Does a father turn away his son when he asks for bread? Or if he asks for a fish, does he give him a snake? Even those who struggle with their own hearts know how to care for their children. So how much more does your heavenly Father, who knows what you need, will care for you? His love is not a reward for the perfect, but a gift for the seeking. For every person who will turn back and repent, not those who think they need no repentance.
You seen this? He's basically telling them that the rules don't matter as long as they feel loved. He's making a joke of the law.
It's a clever act. The crowd eats it up because it's easy. But we can trip him up. We just need to corner him, give him a scenario where he has to choose between being the nice guy and actually following the statutes of Moses.
Exactly. If he sticks to the law, the crowd will turn on him for being too harsh. If he lets it slide, we've got him on heresy. You get in there and ask a question he can't talk his way out of. Let's see how casual he stays when the law is actually on the line.
Jesus.
Yes.
Are you even aware of who you're standing with? You've got tax collectors, prostitutes, and known sinners all gathered around you like they belong here. You claim to obey the law, yet you know these people are a disgrace to you, to our traditions, and to this very ground. And it isn't just the crowd. You have a former tax collector right there in your inner circle. A man who sat at the booths and bled his own people dry for Rome. How can you speak of holiness while you keep company with a traitor? So, teacher, what is your answer?
Who needs a doctor? The healthy or the sick?
The sick, of course.
Why, what do you mean, of course? Why not the healthy?
Why even ask such a thing? A doctor wastes his time standing in a room full of healthy men. He goes where there is a fever to break or a wound to bind.
Exactly. So then, tell me, why would I spend my time only with the healthy? Do you think these people are sick in their sin?
Yes, absolutely. So, what's your point?
This is my point. If you believe these people are as broken and diseased by sin as you say, then you have just answered your own complaint. Why would a physician flee from the very people who need his help the most? If I am here with them, it is because the Father does not want to leave the sick to die in their sin. He wants them healed and brought back to the table, free. For it is the will of the Father, that no one is lost and dying in their sin, but that they may be repentant. Think of it like this. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep. You're out in the open country watching over them when you realize one has wandered off. Do you just shrug and say, "Well, I still have 99"? No, you leave the 99 right there in the pasture and you go after the one that is lost. You search the thickets, you climb the hills, and you don't stop until you find it. And when you finally see that sheep, shivering or stuck in the brush, you don't yell at it. You're so full of joy that you hoist it up onto your shoulders and carry it all the way home. When you get back, you call your friends and neighbors together and say, "Celebrate with me. I found my lost sheep." I tell you, in the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who changes their heart and comes home than over 99 righteous people who stayed on the path and never got lost. You still don't understand, do you? You see the shepherd, but you do not yet see the Father. Okay, I'll say it like this. Imagine a woman who has 10 gold coins, her savings kept safe in her home. If she loses just one of those coins, what does she do? Does she wait until morning and hope it turns up? No. She lights a lamp, grabs her broom, and sweeps every single corner of that house. She moves the furniture, looks under the rugs, and searches carefully until she sees that glint of gold in the dust. And when she finally picks it up, she doesn't just put it back in her purse and go to sleep. She calls her friends and her neighbors and says, "Rejoice with me, for I have found my lost coin. I tell you, there is more joy in heaven over one loss, sinner who repents and returns to God, than the 9 other coins that just stayed in the purse and never got lost." You see how the young shepherd and the woman rejoiced because they found what seemed to be minimal things: a single sheep out of 100, a single coin out of 10. To a great merchant, a coin is nothing. To a king with 1,000 flocks, one sheep is a statistic. But to the one who loves them, they are irreplaceable. If the shepherd and the woman feel this much joy over a beast and a bit of silver, imagine the heart of your Father. He doesn't look at you as a minimal thing. He doesn't look at this crowd and see a mass of people. He sees the one. And when that one turns around, when that one decides to come out of the dark, the halls of heaven shake with the sound of his celebration. You still don't understand, do you? You see the shepherd and the woman, but you do not see the heart behind the search.
Teacher, I understand the shepherd and the woman perfectly. They lost things that were valuable. A sheep is food and wool, a silver coin is a day's wages. Those things have a clear value, they have a price. But I don't get your point. These tax collectors, these sinners, they are the refuse of our streets. They have broken the law and betrayed our people. They cost nothing. Why waste the breath of a rabbi on those who have no worth?
I will show you what truly is valuable, and I pray you will listen and understand. Woe to you if you do not understand what I am telling you this day, for you measure a soul by the weight of a coin, but the Father measures a soul by the depth of his love. You think you are the healthy, who need no help, but your hearts have grown harder than the stones of this walkway. If you cannot see the value in the broken, then you have never truly known the one who made them. Listen now, if you have ears to hear, for if a sheep is worth a journey and a coin is worth a light, what is a son worth to his father? There was a man who had 2 sons, born of the same blood, yet their hearts were worlds apart. The older son was content. He loved the rhythm of the soil, the steady life of the farm. He didn't care for anything beyond those fences. He spent his days looking forward to the future, to the day he would care for the land as his own, and pass it on to his children after him. The father loved them both equally. He looked at them with the same hope, provided for them with the same hand. But while the older son looked at the fields and saw a legacy, the younger son looked at them and saw a prison. The youngest hated the life on the farm. He felt the dust was a chain and the silence was a wall. He wanted to go. He wanted to leave the work, leave the family, and leave the life of the farm behind forever. And most of all, he wanted to leave his father. He didn't want to wait for the natural order of things. He didn't want to wait for a blessing given in time. One day the bitterness in his heart finally spoke. He walked up to his father, not with a request, but with a demand. He said, "Give me my share of the property, I want it now. I don't want to wait for you to die to start my life. To me, you are already gone. Give me what is mine so I can be free of you." The father looked into his son's eyes and saw only the hunger for a world he didn't understand. And with a heart breaking in two, he did the unthinkable. He divided his life's work. The father worried that he was not ready for the world and pleasures of this world, but cause the father loved his son, he gave the boy the freedom to leave, knowing that sometimes a father's love must be a hand that lets go. The next morning, the father woke up with the sun, hoping his son's heart had changed in the night. But when he walked to the boy's room, he found the bed cold and the chests empty. The son had been so excited to escape. that he didn't even wait for a goodbye. He had packed his bags in the dark of night and slipped away before the first light touched the fields. All the father could do was stand at the edge of his land, watching the dust settle on the road and pray with every breath that his boy would not be harmed in the world beyond the fence. The boy traveled far, further than he had ever dreamed. He went to a city where the lights never dimmed and the music never stopped. At first he felt like a king. He had silver in his belt and a hunger for everything he had been denied on the farm. He bought the finest robes of purple silk. He sat at tables filled with rich wines and meats seasoned with spices from across the sea. He surrounded himself with friends who laughed at his jokes as long as he was paying for the next round of drinks. He threw his wealth away on things that glittered but had no substance. He spent his mornings in excess and his nights in shadow, chasing every thrill the world could offer. He thought he was buying freedom, but he was only buying a faster way to the bottom. He didn't count the coins as they fell from his hand. He thought the well would never run dry. He thought his wealth was an ocean, but it was only a puddle. He gambled on the turn of a card. He paid for the company of those who wouldn't look at him if his pockets were empty. He lived as if tomorrow was a ghost that would never catch him. But wealth without work is like mist in the morning sun. Day by day the pouch grew lighter. The fine robes began to fray. One by one, the friends who had toasted his name slipped away when he could no longer buy their company. He had traded his father's legacy for a few months of noise and smoke. And then, as if the earth itself were responding to his foolishness, the rain stopped falling. A great famine gripped that land, and the boy who had walked into the city like a prince found himself standing on a street corner with nothing in his pockets but dust. The boy began to starve. It wasn't just a hunger that growls for a meal. It was a hollow, aching void that gnaws at the bones. His ribs began to push against his skin, and the fine clothes he had bought were now nothing but rags held together by the dirt of the street. He went out into the city desperate. He knocked on every door, humbled himself at every shop, and begged for even the lowliest labor. "I will scrub your floors," he cried. "I will carry your stones. I will do anything just for a bit of bread." But the famine was a cruel master. The shops were boarded up, and the people who still had food clutched it to their chests with cold, frightened hearts. There were no jobs. There was no mercy. Everywhere he turned, the answer was a door slammed in his face. Finally, he wandered out of the city and into the barren countryside. He saw a farm, not a warm, welcoming place like his father's, but a grey, heartless stretch of mud. He begged the owner, a hard man of that distant country, to take him in. He pleaded and promised, until the farmer finally gave him a nod of indifference. The farmer didn't hire him out of kindness. He hired him because he wanted a slave who cost him nothing. He sent the boy into the furthest fields to feed the pigs. And you must understand, this farmer didn't care about the boy. He didn't look at him and see a person. He saw a tool that was already broken. He didn't feed him. He didn't pay him a single copper. He left him out in the rain and the heat, forgotten among the swine. The boy would stand there, his stomach twisting in knots, watching the pigs eat. He looked at the slop they crunched on, husks that were bitter and dry, and in his madness, he began to wish he could just eat what the pigs were eating. He reached for the slop, but even the pigs fought him for them. He was at the very bottom of the world. He was a son of a king living lower than a beast of the field, and not one soul in that entire land gave him a single thing. After a month of this, a month of the cold rain, the smell of the swine, and the silent, gnawing pain of a stomach that had forgotten the weight of a full meal, the boy finally reached his breaking point. The pride that had driven him away was finally starved out of him. He sat there in the filth, his head in his hands, and he finally came to himself. He looked at his trembling hands and whispered to the wind, "What has become of me? How did I fall so far?" Back home in my father's house, even the lowliest hired servants, men who aren't even family, have sturdy roofs over their heads. They have warm beds, they have plenty of food, more than they can even eat, while here I am, a world away, dying of hunger. He stood up, his legs shaking from weakness, and looked toward the horizon where his home lay. "I will go home," he said, the words catching in his dry throat. "I will set out and go back to my father, but how can I look him in the eye? I told him he was dead to me. I took his life's work and threw it into the gutter. I turned my back on his love and left without even a word of goodbye, leaving him to wonder if I was alive or dead." He began to practice the words over and over as he walked. "I don't think he'll take me back as a son. I wouldn't take me back. I have lost that right. So, I will go to him and I will say, 'Father, I have sinned against the God of heaven, and I have sinned deeply against you. I am no longer worthy to even be called your son. I have brought shame to your name. I don't ask for my room back, and I don't ask for your silver. Please, just take me on as one of your hired servants. Let me work in your fields. Let me sleep in the servants' quarters. I would rather be a slave in my father's house than a free man in this graveyard." And so the boy pulled himself up from the mud, with nothing but the tattered rags on his back and the rehearsed speech in his heart. He began the long, grueling journey home. Every step was a struggle. He was walking on blistered feet, fueled only by the hope of a servant's crust of bread. Tell me, you, who know the law and the traditions of our fathers, this boy has taken his inheritance, treated his father as if he were dead, and squandered his life with Gentiles and harlots. Now he is coming back. What do you think will happen when he reaches the gates of his village?
The law is clear, teacher. He has brought shame not only on his house but on the entire community. He has rebelled against the fifth commandment. When he nears the village, the elders will perform the kezaza ceremony. They will break a jar of corn and nuts at his feet to show he is cut off from his people forever.
Well, if he refuses to leave, what will happen?
He will surely be stoned for his rebellion. A son who treats his father with such contempt has no place among the living. Justice demands it.
And what about you? Do you agree?
Yes, Rabbi, we agree.
The boy finally made it to the countryside. He reached the rolling hills that bordered his father's land. He was limping, his head bowed, looking at the dirt beneath his feet, waiting for the first stone to be thrown. But while he was still a long, long way off, the boy looked up through the sweat and the dust. He saw a figure in the distance, sprinting across the fields, kicking up the earth. The boy's heart seized with terror. He thought, "Here it comes, they've seen me. This is the man coming to cast the first stone. This is the end." He was so overwhelmed by his own shame that he collapsed. He fell on his face in the dirt, shielding his head, and cried out in fear. He waited for the blow. He waited for the anger. But it wasn't who he was expecting, for you see, the father had never stopped looking at that road. Every morning, every noon, and every sunset, he had watched the horizon. And when he saw that ragged, limping silhouette, he didn't see a rebel. He didn't see a failure. He had compassion on him. He did something no man of dignity does. He gathered up his robes and he ran. When the son realized the arms around him weren't there to crush him, but to hold him, he still couldn't bring himself to look up. He stayed in the dirt and began to sob out the words he had been rehearsing for a month. "Father, I have sinned against God of heaven and against you. I am not worthy to be called your son. I have lost that right. Please, just take me on as a hired servant." But the father wasn't even listening. He wasn't hearing the confession, and he wasn't looking at the filth. He didn't see the son who had betrayed him. He saw a son who had come home. He pulled the boy to his feet, drowning out the apologies with his own shouts of joy. He didn't make the boy walk through the village in shame. The two of them went inside, and before the son could even wash the smell of the pigs from his skin, the father called to his servants, "Quickly, bring my finest robe, the one reserved for royalty, and wrap it around him. Put a ring on his finger to show he is still an heir. Put sandals on his feet so he no longer walks like a slave." Then the father turned to the whole house, his voice echoing off the walls, "Prepare the best meat. We will have a feast and we will celebrate. For I thought my son was dead, But he is alive. I thought he was lost. But now he is found. And right there in the middle of the afternoon, the music began, and they started to celebrate. But while the music was playing and the laughter filled the halls, the older son was still out in the field. He had spent the entire day under the sun, his back aching from the labor he had never abandoned. He had no idea what was happening until he crested the hill and saw the torches lit, and heard the sound of pipes and dancing. Confused, he stopped a servant who was running toward the kitchens. "What is this? What's with the party?" The servant, breathless with excitement, replied, "It's a miracle. Your brother has returned to us. Your father is so overwhelmed with joy that he ordered us to kill the fattened calf. We are all weeping and rejoicing because he has made it home safely." But the older son did not smile. He didn't drop his tools and run to embrace his brother. Instead, he became so angry that he wouldn't even cross the threshold. He stood in the dark outside the circle of the firelight, refusing to go in. The father, hearing of his son's anger, did not send a servant. He went out himself. He found his eldest son in the shadows and begged him to come inside, to eat, and to see the brother he thought he'd never see again. But the son wouldn't even look at his father. He spat the words out like venom. "Father, look at me. All these years I have slaved for you. For years I have stayed, I have worked, and I have never disobeyed you once. I have done everything you ever told me to do, and yet, in all that time, you did not even give me a little goat, so that I could be merry with my friends. But then this son of yours, the one who spoiled your money, the one who spent your life's work on prostitutes, he shows up with nothing but his shame, and you kill the fattened calf for him. You throw a feast for a fool." The father was heartbroken. He looked at his eldest, seeing a different kind of lost, a son who was physically home but whose heart was 1,000 miles away in bitterness. He reached out and touched his son's shoulder, saying softly, "My son, you are always with me. Everything I have, the land, the house, the inheritance, it is already yours. But we had to celebrate. We had no choice but to be glad, for this brother of yours was dead, and now he is alive. He was lost, and now he is found. I tell you, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 other sheep, or 9 silver coins, or one other son who never turned away. The Father is not counting the years you served. He is counting the moments until you love. So you see the love of the Father. So I tell you, love like your Father in heaven."
In stories of old, a shepherd's care, a coin that's found, a welcome rare. These parables show a love so low.